Hey guys, gals, and MBs, I'm here today with the Sequential Trigon 6, which, yeah, you saw it in my last video where I used it with the Big Sky MX. Today we're going to be just using it by itself, and I'll be demonstrating some things I really like about it. First things first, I bought this with my own money, and I'm going to bring up the bad that I've had with this particular unit, and that's been tuning stability, but support's been helping me with it. I did a firmware update that has seemed to fix some of the muting issues where it'll mute when you just turn it on for the first time, so that was definitely a firmware bug. I'm in a situation where we have very unstable temperatures since I'm running the air conditioner, so yeah, it's going on and off, so you'll have a lot of temperature dips. Once you get it tuned, and it'll be pretty stable. Just be aware that you may have to clear the tuning calibration tables out of this thing and then tune every once in a while when you hear that it has some problems. But it should build up a table, and it should learn from your environment based on temperature versus when you tell it to tune. Just as a thing, you can hold down, hold, and glide here, and if you press 3, you can see what the internal temperature is, which it's 49 degrees C right now. Yeah, that said, that's the only major issue I've had with this particular unit has been tuning stability. But yeah, it's nice right now. Tuning doesn't take very long. You just hold preset and 0 and it tunes. We can actually do that right now, and then I can tell you why I got this unit. I ended up wanting to get an OB6 or the Trigon 6, and it was very hard to decide, but one of the few Moog synths that I like is the Memory Moog, and I can't afford one. A Memory Moog in good working condition is well over $10,000, and then it's not going to probably last as long as I would like, and it's probably going to have issues, and it's just going to have, I mean, the reliability has been fixed in modern versions of it where people have replaced the power supply. But that said, I didn't want a vintage synth. As you can see, it was pretty quick to tune. So Trigon 6 is the closest thing to a Memory Moog you can get. I obviously love the sound of a classic Mini Moog, but the Memory Moog always sounded really cool to me when I've heard demos, and this is basically a Memory Moog. Has ladder filters, has a 2-pole and a 4-pole mode. I don't remember if the Memory Moog had a 2-pole mode. I think it was purely 4-pole. But yeah, you could get some beautiful sounds out of a Memory Moog, at least from what I've heard, like demos of it. Again, this is... I'm not going to say that this synth is affordable. It is not. If you want an affordable sequential synth, look at the Take 5. Those go on sale quite a bit, and the used prices aren't too bad on those. But yeah, I wanted to treat myself to something really nice because I'm like up to 4,000 subscribers. I think my channel's been doing well, and I really like making music, so I wanted just something kind of special for myself. Yeah, rambling aside, let's get into how cool this thing sounds. And like I said, I didn't need another Prophet sound, so I wanted, because I have a Take 5 and I have a Pro 800, which I'll be doing a video soon, like I said, on the Pro 800. I still like that thing. Yeah, we'll just do a video on this. So it's tuned. I have a patch here. This isn't an init patch. This is just a patch that I've been using to test the tuning to see what was going on. But yeah, be aware that this uses discrete oscillators and filters, and what that means, it doesn't use monolithic ICs in order to, it doesn't have like a SEM chip or something along those lines in it, or like a 3340, a VCO that's already on a chip. So it's going to be a lot more temperamental to temperature changes. So it's individual chips versus a monolithic chip that handles all of that. But on the other hand, I think that's kind of neat, and I think it gives it a little character to be a little bit drifty. That said, the little bit of drifty, when you get it tuned, is not an issue on this thing. And you even have a vintage knob to make it even more drifty, and we'll get into that. So yeah, that's just the patch that I have to test it out. To do an init patch, you hold preset and right. And with an init patch, then you get a sawtooth wave. And one of the things that's really unique about this synth and the Memory Moog in particular for the era when that thing came out is you can mix oscillators. You don't have individual volume control for each oscillator, but each oscillator, well, you do. I'm talking about the wave shapes. I should back up. You do. You have volume control for each of the things, but you can add different wave shapes to it. So each oscillator basically can have, it's basically 3 oscillators in one. So you have a pulse width, you have a sawtooth, and a triangle. On the third one, they're all the same except the third one. The third one has a reverse saw and a normal saw, so you can use it as a, if you see this, you have low, you can use this as a LFO, and it's really fun. We're going to do that in a minute here. So yeah, you can turn on all of them. Let's just do that. And one of the unique things that this has over like the OB6 and other synths like that is this has a feedback circuit. So you have drive into the filter, and the drive is really nice, and it's kind of subtle, but you can hear it a lot if I turn this down, the cutoff. We'll go into 2-pole mode. Actually, yeah, we'll bring up a little resonance. Maybe that won't work too well on YouTube, but it does bring in a little bit of drive, and it's very nice. But the feedback, however, that's where it gets crazy. Could get very crunchy, but that's really nice, and it can be used to the drive and the feedback can be used a little bit to compensate the loss of bass that you have when you bring up the resonance in this thing. The resonance sounds actually pretty nice. So here. So yeah, that's pretty fun. You also have an analog distortion. I should say that everything on this except the effects section, the signal path-wise, is analog. I think the LFO and the envelopes are digitally controlled, but yeah, so the major sound producing components of this, unlike the Take 5, like so the VCO and the oscillators and the filter are all analog on this, where the VCOs were digital on the Take 5. But yeah, you have a really nice analog stereo distortion too. It can get very aggressive, but yeah, so that's really fun. Let's make something pretty out of this. That's where I wanted this, an ambient machine, which you don't think that something with a ladder filter and this many oscillators can be an ambient machine, but let me tell you, it can. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 pulse waves. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick it into 2-pole mode. We're going to turn the cutoff all the way down. And we're going to use the envelope to control that. So let's put some attack. We're going to have a nice long attack. We're not going to worry about the amp envelope, but we are going to worry about the release. I should say we're not going to worry about the attack on the amp envelope. I'm going to bring in some resonance. So yeah, maybe we want to back down the release a little. Let's back down the release a little. Now we're going to bring in a little bit of feedback before it gets crazy. All right. And now let's bring in some pan spread. So we're going to bring in pan spread. We're going to bring it into the middle here. So each note is going to go onto a separate side of this stereo image. Very lovely. All right, let's have some fun with the pitch here. We're going to change. So the pitch is really nice because the maximum that the fine tuning on the pitch control will go is 7 semitones, which is my favorite because that's a fifth. So here. Absolutely. It's already sounding really cool, but we haven't even added any modulation. So you have noticed that I haven't been using oscillator number 3, but we're going to have a little bit of fun with oscillator number 3 there. So we're going to use that in the polymod in a second. But the first thing we're going to do is use the LFO, and we're going to use a cool little hidden feature. I mean, it's not like super hidden, but we're going to turn off the frequency from it, and we're going to use it to control pulse width 1 and pulse width 2, right? So normally it just in a triangle mode. Let's hear that. We don't have a sustain envelope here. That's why it cut off abruptly. Okay, let's have a sustain. All right, so that'll be really fun. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do to make it really interesting is we have a random shape. Yeah, a lot of synths have random shape, especially their sample and hold circuits on vintage synths. But one thing that it's explained in the manual, but really briefly, if you switch this over to random, right, and you turn the frequency all the way up, then you get a noise-based LFO. So we don't want to turn it up too far because then we can just be using the noise. But what we're doing now is we're actually controlling the pulse width. With noise. So yeah, that's just really cool. But we're not going to do that. We're going to control the frequency instead. We want to make this like a broken pad. It's just sounding absolutely fantastic. I mean, especially with a lot of feedback. Maybe not that much. You can really drive that filter. All right, so what are we going to use oscillator 3 for? We could use it as a sub oscillator. I mean, let's just listen to what that sounds like. Bring it down an octave. Sounds really, really cool. And again, we still haven't even added effects to it. That beautiful pan spread you hear is all being happening just with pan spread itself. We're not like using a auto panner. We're not using a stereo delay or anything. So yeah. So we're going to actually, instead of using this, we're going to turn the volume down. We're going to keep keyboard tracking on. So one of the things you can do is if you're using this as a like an actual LFO, you can turn off keyboard tracking, and then this stays at a constant rate for your polymod section. But we're going to keyboard track. We're going to now and use this polymod section, and we're going to add pulse width to oscillator 3. So oscillator 3 is now, there's nothing coming out of it in terms of volume. We can see nothing's coming out of it. But what we're going to do is we're going to use it to control the pulse width. So we're going to turn this up here. This controls how much depth oscillator 3 gives to whatever you assign it to. So. And the interesting thing about that is because we're still keyboard tracking, it's going to go up. The tracks are notes. little less LFO amount, so a little less noise on the pitch. Let's close the filter a little. A little more resonance. Alright, that is amazing. And that is with no effects. I mean, I don't consider pan spread an effect. I mean, we can add a little distortion if we want. Maybe that's a little too much, but cool. So let's go to the effects section. So the reverb on this thing isn't good. You've heard me say it again. There's not many synths out there with good reverb. The only synth I own with good reverb is the Novation Peak. And that's no exception. Let's actually hear we'll hear the reverb later on a simpler patch. To save patches is pretty easy. We're going to go ahead and save what we've already done. So to do that, you press right, then you save the spot that you want it into. Now it's in spot 3. So yeah, just making sure it's in there. All that work we did. So yeah, let's go ahead and turn on one of my favorite effects, which is the Bucket Brigade delay. And we will turn that down. It is stereo, so anything you have going on with pan spread will be replicated in the delay section. The reverb sums to mono, so you have to be careful about that. But yeah, this is feedback now, and this is the time. So let's do this. Absolutely gorgeous sounding. At least I think it is. Let's swap that. Let's go ahead and turn off this. We're going to switch the BBD to number 2. That way we can put something else in front of there. So we'll do that. Turn that. What do we have? Let's just say 100 because it's a nice pad. Let's put it up to 100. We're going to turn this up to about 80. 85. Why not? Go on number 1. We're going to go ahead and use the phaser. That's feedback, I believe, and that's the speed. Absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, the delay effects and most of the modulation effects on this thing actually sound pretty fantastic. The reverbs, not so much. We're going to save that because that just sounds so cool. So saving it, right. Oh, and I love these buttons. These buttons are fantastic. They just feel so nice. Yeah, you can hear from this. They're just so clicky. Anyway, yeah. So that's now there. Go back to it. Gorgeous. All right, so let's go on to the negative side of the effects, and that is the reverb doesn't sound that good. And we're going to use just a simple, I don't know, we'll use a saw. So let's make a default patch, hold down preset and press right. And what we're going to do is we're going to just turn on, the reverb is only in section 2, so can't run 2 reverbs together. And this is the early reflections, I believe, and this is the time. So you only really have time in early reflections. Oh, we got to actually turn it on. That's max time. Not sure if that's dampening or early reflections. Either way, it doesn't get very ambient, and it doesn't sound that great, and it doesn't have any modulation to it. All the reverbs sound pretty lackluster. The room's okay if you're gonna like put in some square waves and do some kind of Berlin School-esque stuff, like with the arpeggiator. The spring or the plate, metallic, awful. Spring doesn't really have much drip. I don't like springs anyway, so that shouldn't be the go-to with spring reverbs. I just don't like them. But yeah, the reverbs are very disappointing. I guess the algorithms do go back away. I'm assuming they're the same ones that are like on the OB6 and the Prophet 6. So yeah, not great. They need to get somebody from the Novation side into the sequential side to make them some good effects. So, I mean, given the Peak has an FPGA that runs all of its algorithm goodness, but yeah, just saying. Not a fan of the effects section, at least the reverb section. The delay and the modulation is pretty cool. And you can get really, as you heard before, let's bring down the phaser. You can get some gorgeous sounds out of this. Yeah, so you can see why I really like the Trigon 6 so much. It is absolutely fantastic. It is easily the most expensive synth I've ever bought. Was it worth it? For me, yeah, absolutely. I've sold a lot of other synths in order to be able to afford this. Yeah, and I just needed to cull my collection. I kind of wanted to focus on maybe 5 or 6 really good synths versus having like 20 or 30 just okay synths. So yeah, this is going to be one of my flagship synths that I use a lot for making ambient music. The Peak is the other one. The Peak is just fantastic. There's not any negatives to the Peak. Even at the price point that it is now, the Peak, you just can't really beat it. The Take 5, you're going to see more videos on the Take 5. I absolutely love the Take 5. This doesn't replace the Take 5. This has its own character. This has its own filter. The Pro 800 videos will be coming fairly soon. I did just sell a bunch of pedals. I wasn't going to sell my Night Sky, but I ended up selling my Night Sky and my Venturous, and the money that I got from those is actually going to a Wavestate Mark II, which will be here next week. So I'm going to get back into the Wavestate content. I sold my initial Wavestate because I was going to buy a Wavestate module, but I think I still want a keyboard version because it's lightweight. Okay, I'm not going to be charitable to it. The Wavestate is not built well, but it's nice and light, and you can easily take it places to mess with and make some cool sounds with. So I just need another built-in keyboard, and that'll work out. So that'll be sometime soon. We'll do a Pro 800 video first. Yeah, I'm missing my Wavestate, but again, I sold the Mark I for a Mark II because I really need the polyphony. I've been running out of the polyphony like crazy on that thing. It's the reason I haven't used it as much as I would like. I've made a lot of sounds with it, but again, I run out of polyphony. So, yeah. Again, I don't know what more I can say about the Trigon 6. It's not like a full review, but I just wanted to say what I really like about it. So the filter sounds phenomenal. You got this awesome feedback / drive. You have a really cool polymod, which sounds really cool. You have an LFO with a, I should say it's not really hidden because it's in the manual, but how many people are going to gloss over saying that you can use noise as a modulation source, especially on an analog poly? It's not super common. The Take 5 can do it. There's a menu option for that. So yeah, the OB6 I believe can do it. Anything based on that architecture, the Prophet 6 I think can do it. Yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I did see it in the OB6 manual. I'm still thinking about selling extra stuff so I can get an OB6 along with this. This I want to keep, obviously. But yeah, I still might get an OB6. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this kind of video and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If you did like it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and I'll have more stuff soon. Again, thanks for watching.